A day where you're treating back to back, the phone's ringing, texts are coming in, a lead wants to book, you got somebody trying to cancel, and you're just sitting here thinking, how am I supposed to handle all these things? Then you finally get home and you're calling leads back after dinner, you're texting people, you're sending super bills late at night, and you're getting the Sunday scaries all over again because you feel like you're behind. And if that's you, this video is going to be a breath of fresh air. Because today I want to show you 5 ways that practices are using virtual assistants to buy back their time without losing conversions and without trying to hire some other random front desk part-timer that you can't actually trust. And so here's what you're going to learn in this video. Number one, we're going to learn how clinics stop answering calls between patients and certainly without missing leads and opportunities. Number two, we're going to talk about how virtual assistants allow you to follow up faster so leads don't go cold. Number three, we'll talk about how you can stop doing admin work at night, finally. Hallelujah. Fourth, we're going to talk about how you can get rid of the mental load that's ultimately going to cause you to burn out. And then the last one, how virtual assistants allow you to stop hiring out of panic and finally create a system that you can trust. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about hiring some random virtual assistant off the internet and kind of hoping it works, right? Many of you guys have tried that. I'm talking about cash practices that are using VAs the right way, with scripts, with systems, and ultimately with accountability. And this is exactly how clinics stop leaving time on the table, we stop missing leads, and ultimately we get our nights and evenings back so that our practice can actually start growing again. So, number one, what are the main things that we want our virtual assistants to begin doing? And what do we want to stop doing? How do we buy back our time as the clinic owner? You are the biggest leverage point in the practice. Nobody knows more than you. And if you can't get things done, certainly the practice will become the bottleneck. And when you've become the bottleneck of your practice, you're going to have a hard time growing and you're going to get stuck. And either you have one or two choices. You're going to continue to be stuck and you can continue like that forever, or you're going to burn out and ultimately want to get out of this position. So, how do we stop answering the phones between patients? Look, the first way cash practice owners are buying back their time is they stop answering these calls, right? Because the real cost isn't necessarily the call itself, it's the mental load of the interruption. And if you're constantly getting interrupted, you're switching between treating a patient and then back into jumping on the phone calls, one of two things is going to happen, right? Like you either ignore the lead and you lose them, right? Or you try to call them back as quick as they can. Or if you answer the phone call, you're losing your focus either with your patient or maybe there was some other more important thing that you need to be handling. Or heck, maybe you were trying to spend some time with your family and you got interrupted by this as well. That loss of focus is crazy expensive, right? Because you're switching between clinician brain and admin brain and back and forth and back and forth. And that's why you feel absolutely fried at the end of the day, at the end of the week. And that's why when you go on vacation, you don't feel any better when you come back. Because ultimately you're back to switching tasks forward and backwards. And now when you go to hire a virtual assistant, these phone calls get answered either live or ideally within the first 5 minutes. Missed phone calls are actually called like right then and there. They're called, if they came in the morning, they're called in the morning, not later on at the end of the day or after you've been treating patients all day, you finally get back to them several hours later, which is a major problem, right? And you can't really give great care when you try to run the front desk and you're wearing all the hats and running the operation of your practice. And that's the most important product you offer is your clinical care. And when your clinical care is completely distracted because of all the other hats that you're wearing, you're not going to be able to give your patients the best care. And I know that's what many of you guys care about. Now, when the phone isn't interrupting your day, the next thing that we ultimately need to be able to fix, and we have to be able to expose some of the leaks that might be happening in our practice. And the second way that virtual assistants are buying back time for practice owners is our leads are getting followed up with super fast, right? Within 5 minutes. And most practice owners don't even realize how much money is being left on the table by not calling leads within 5 minutes. Period. Like you guys got to be calling your leads back within 5 minutes. And if you're not, money is being left on the table. Because here's what happens. When you miss a phone call, you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to call that lead after I finish up with this patient. Or I got 3 patients back to back. I'll give them a call then. Then, your day gets busy and maybe you're not able to call them. You're back to back. And so then you're stuck calling them at the end of the day. And then now maybe that person doesn't answer. And then they call you back either later that evening or first thing the next morning. And now it's lunchtime before you can get back to them again. And oh, wait, they were busy as well. And so now we're playing phone tag with this potential lead, and it makes you look super bad, right? And ultimately, that person finally just stops responding, or you never get a hold of them. And now this person is ready to go to the next clinic down the road, right? And that's the big issue with this is every single patient that you're missing out on in most cases is usually $1,500 to $2,000 in lost revenue for the practice. And now what's happening is you're stuck constantly switching between tasks and trying to call back leads when you can, and now you're stuck chasing people down as opposed to doing what you do best, which is taking care of your patients and doing the things that they need. And so instead, what a virtual assistant is going to do for you is if you get a missed phone call, or they're going to be sitting at the desk ready to receive your phone calls, that lead is taken care of immediately. And now when you're trying to run a premium service for your practice, these people are following up very, very quickly, right? And now that customer experience that you want to actually have happen in the clinic is actually happening outside the clinic beforehand as well. It's the best way to attract a lead is when you're like getting back to them ASAP or you're picking the phone up off the dial. These people are super bought in, they're super hungry, and they're accomplishing what it is that you need. And so now that lead is called immediately. They're carried with a 15 to 20 minute discovery call, depending on your practice and the flow. They're told exactly how great you are and how you're going to be able to help them with their problem. And now they're going to get that person booked. They're going to onboard them. They're going to send them a welcome email sequence, a welcome email, some type of automation potentially to help them find the clinic if you're tucked away inside of a gym or tucked away inside of a back office somewhere. And now these people are taken care of on the front end, and now they're actually excited to work with you, and you're not doing shoddy work on the back end. And not to mention, like, it seems a little weird when they're talking to the doc and, like, they don't have a front desk. Like, it's just kind of a weird divide, right? Like, it just typically doesn't happen. So most clinics are losing leads because they can't get to them quick enough. And when your follow-up is actually getting handled daily, magical things start to happen for your practice. And that brings us to point number 3 here. Point number 3 is most practice owners are buying back their time when they can finally stop doing random admin work at night. Owners don't realize like how normal this has become. They say, well, I've been treating patients all day. It's just normal for me to, I own a business. It's just normal for me to do these things, and it's just 15 minutes. Like I'll just check in real quick between dinner and when I'm putting my kids to bed, or, hey, I finally put my kids to bed, and I'll just, instead of me watching TV or spending time with my significant other, I'll send this super bill or I'll send this invoice, and, I'll follow up with that lead before bed. And then suddenly you're back to work tomorrow doing the exact same thing again. And these long work days continue to get extended, not only treating patients, but also doing all these random things that you could offload very easily and very simply and very cheaply for that matter, right? And when a VA takes over, all these like little loose ends get tied up. And so checking people out in an EMR, so freaking simple, right? Sending super bills to a patient or sending itemized receipts to them if they want those. Making sure paperwork is sent in and filled out prior to an evaluation, right? Making sure patient portals are up to date or they have access to them. All this stuff is like peanuts, right? Like you could offload this stuff for cheap. And that's ultimately what you want to do. So as opposed to you trying to do all of this stuff at night or between patients or, letting it pile up for weeks and weeks, let somebody offload it for $5 or $10 an hour, right? Point number 4, after we finally have like offloaded all this stuff, we've gotten all these tasks done, the loose ends are finally tied up. The other big thing that we have to be able to get rid of and what practice owners need to buy back is we have to stop carrying the mental load, right? It's not just about hours or tasks. It's about the mental load that you are experiencing as a result of you doing everything. And here's what I'm talking about. Not only do you have all your patients to take care of, and if somebody's not getting better or not getting the outcome that you thought that they should get, or you're trying to figure out a complex case and coordinate care with other providers, right? Like that's one side of it, right? That's just part of being a provider. However, what happens is you now start to have all these other things creep in, and you're laying down in bed at night and you're like, shoot, I forgot to send that invoice to that person. Or you're having dinner with your family, like, shoot, I forgot to do that thing right there. Yeah, I forgot to send that super bill to that patient, or I forgot to update their patient portal. I forgot to send that medication in, whatever it might be, right? These are all the things. Or I forgot to call that lead back, or hey, that person texted me and actually didn't end up back on the schedule. That's the really common one, right? And there's always this like background noise that is going on, and this like background angst that's happening. But what happens is when you have a virtual assistant actually handling these things for you, they reduce all of that background noise, right? Where they're on top of leads, and you get a report at the end of the day and you know where all of your patients are, or all those new leads that you were paying for. Or at the end of the week, they can, actually run a report on your EMR, and they basically say all of these leads that are potentially dropped off and don't actually have, any follow-up appointments. Like, I need to reach out to them. And your VA is going to do that proactively, as opposed to you getting to the end of your, 2 weeks. You're like, man, I haven't seen John in a while. I need to give that guy a call. And now he's like forgotten about his symptoms and he's on to something else. And so ultimately, this is what a virtual assistant can do for you. They can quiet that background noise, and you can focus on important things. One of which is patient care, which is what you do best. But the other piece of that is actually being able to get back to growing the practice. Maybe you have another provider that you want to bring on. Maybe there's some other marketing or some outreach that you've been wanting to do that you've kind of forgotten. Maybe there's some social media posts that you thought about making. Heck, maybe you offload that too. But what happens is owners are finally having that moment where they say, man, I feel like I can breathe again. I can think clearly. I have time for myself. And that allows you to free yourself from the mental load. And then finally, you're able to actually get somebody that you know, like, and trust into your practice, whether it's another provider, or ultimately you can actually have a front desk that you can trust. Now, the big thing with a virtual assistant that's probably the most helpful though, is that you can buy back your time in that you're not having to hire out of a panic. And what I mean by that is most practice owners, when they go to hire a front desk, is they are, having to go through the motions of like putting an Indeed ad up and sorting through a bunch of resumes, or maybe they have a short list of people, but you still have to conduct interviews and then ultimately train this person to get them up to speed. But what's happening is when you go to hire a virtual assistant, you don't have to hire out of panic, right? Where you're like, shoot, I just had somebody quit, or I've grown so much that like I'm over it, like I need some help. And so most people, they'll go to hire out of a panic, right? And now they're hiring what they like, the least bad person. And they get this person in, they seem nice, they seem great, they were awesome in an interview, and they get them in and they're like, wow, this is just not going to cut it. Like, they just don't have the soft skills needed to be able to talk on the phone. And that's a problem, right? And we don't need just a warm body at the front desk. We need somebody who can absolutely crush it for us. Or for some of you guys, maybe you've had a front desk before and they just like quit on a whim. It's like, hey, I'm out. Like, this isn't for me. This isn't what I thought it was. And now you're back having to make a panic hire. This is where a virtual assistant really helps free up your time, because you don't have to go through that rat race again. And, what this allows you to do is basically go to a company, something like ours, or, other virtual assistant companies. And we've already done the vetting for you. I mean, we have a 4-step interview process that we basically ran all of our virtual assistants through, and then battle tested them by doing mock phone calls with other admins and role playing with our AI system. Like, all of those things really help battle test them to make sure they have the skills that they need. And I get it. Some of you owners are scared if you've never hired before, or you've been burned before. It's like, hey, this person doesn't sound confident, or I just don't think I can trust them with the phones, or they think, nobody can convert as well as me. And that's, again, where having a trusted company or a trusted system can really help be a differentiator for you. And what we usually help clients with when they're thinking about bringing on any front desk is, hey, you ultimately need scripts, you need SOPs, you need accountability built in at your front desk. And when you don't have those things, I don't care who you plug into your front desk, unless you just happen to get lucky, and sometimes you do, you don't want to leave it up to chance, where you get lucky and you finally find somebody great, but you burned through 5 other people to get there before. And so regardless of the fact, this is where having a virtual assistant or a company come in and basically say, hey, I'm going to build out all of your SOPs, all your scripts, all your follow-up process, all your cancellation procedure. All of that stuff is going to be most helpful to ultimately get you the outcome that you're looking for. And the risk is really not hiring help, because when you're not hiring help, you've got all this mental load that's going on. You're not calling leads back quick enough. You're losing leads, and ultimately you're going to continue to burn out, which is the last thing that we want to have happen in your practice. So if you want to buy back your time this year, it's not about working harder. It's not about getting more disciplined. It's not about getting up earlier. Really, it's all about you finding a way to leverage your time. And a virtual assistant is one of the best ways to do that, but it's only going to work when you actually pair it with the right system. That way you're not babysitting, and that way you're not cleaning up mistakes and you're having to circle back in. And that's the best way for you to get back to growing this year. Buy back your time and really focus. Now, this is the 5 ways that I see cash and hybrid clinics all over the country buying back their time. And ultimately, if you want to learn more about that, or what it's like to set up a virtual assistant inside your practice so you don't continue to lose leads and you don't continue to feel burnout, all you have to do is click the link down below. You can actually book a call with me. I'll break down your practice. I'll find out where the holes, the bottlenecks are, and we'll take a deep dive and figure out what it is that's going to help you the most. And if it doesn't make sense, I'll at least get you pointed in the right direction with some of our other free trainings. Awesome. We'll see you guys inside the next video.